The sun has never been silent. But this week, something whispered between its rays. An object no one could see, unless it chose to be seen. No one knew where it was. Only that, after it passed, the sun began to breathe differently. It was called 3I Atlas, the third visitor from interstellar space, a pale blue mass, drifting silently through our planetary system, and in the moment it got too close to the sun, it did what no other object has ever done. It disappeared into the light. At L1, the SOHO satellite captured the final image sequence. The faint blue glow of 3I Atlas was heading straight for the heliosphere, where temperatures exceed 1 million degrees Kelvin. The sensors were about to lose contact, but before the signal ended, the sun's brightness fluctuated by a tiny 0.03% in less than 10 seconds. A seemingly small number, but enough to set off alarms. There was no explosion, no comet tail blowing off, no streak of light. The object didn't burn up. It just melted into the star's halo, and then vanished as if it had never existed. As one astronomer in Hawaii put it, "We didn't lose it because of the instrument. We lost it because it chose not to leave a trace." By the laws of physics, any object that passes close to the sun should become brighter due to heating and evaporation. But 3I Atlas did the opposite. It dimmed, like it was absorbing energy rather than reflecting it. Hubble data had previously shown that its reflected light contained a high concentration of ionized CO2, a gas that can interact with magnetic fields. And if that were true, 3I Atlas was not just a passing object, but an energy system capable of adjusting how it interacted with its host star. An ESA engineer said in an emergency meeting, "There is no doubt that Teleus 3I Atlas was not swallowed by the Sunday. It hit the Sunday. Soon after, the star's magnetic field swelled by 18%, a number that was enough to change the direction of the plasma and send waves of energy throughout the planetary system. Earth, tiny and fragile, was the first to feel the strange vibration. From that moment, 3I Atlas was no longer just an interstellar object. It became the first evidence of an extrasolar entity that could have a direct impact on our star. If you're listening to this in the middle of the night, please leave a like as a way to mark the first time humans have seen an object changing the sun's behavior. And if you want to continue with me, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the return of the light, because the journey of 3I Atlas has only just begun. After 3I Atlas disappeared, everything around our central star became strange. The observatories could no longer see the object, but its traces remained, hidden in the energy pulses the sun began to emit. No one knew what was happening, only that the sun's energy field changed, as if something were stirring inside it. Streams of plasma moved in strange orbits, Sensors recorded a regular pulsation, like the sun was inhaling and exhaling more slowly. Experts could not determine the cause. No magnetic storm, no energy blast, but the entire Earth's magnetosphere began to oscillate in the same cycle, a cycle that was not natural. Scientists quietly admitted that the change was unlike any other stellar energy response. Something had intervened, and the influence was not confined to the Sunday. It spread, silently, continuously, like a signal sent without anyone knowing its destination. Earth was the first to feel it. The atmosphere oscillated slightly. Magnetic stations recorded a steady repetition. And then, like an invisible reflex, the entire planet entered a new rhythm. There was no doubt that the sun had changed. But what puzzled the scientific community most was the feeling of intention. The oscillations were not chaotic, but so steady and regular that they seemed controlled. No one dared to say it out loud, but in closed meetings, someone whispered, "Maybe 3I Atlas hasn't left yet. Maybe it's still somewhere inside the light itself." If you've heard this far, leave a comment. Do you think the sun is reacting or communicating? And be sure to subscribe, because next time, we're going to dive into the 33-second rhythm. That strange breathing rhythm that defies any laws of physics. After the initial chaos, when everyone thought the phenomenon was just a temporary reaction, the data began to show otherwise. The oscillation did not disappear. It remained steady, 33 seconds per cycle, without a millisecond deviation, and spread evenly across the planet's surface. Nothing in physics is so perfect. The solar wind changes. The Earth's magnetic field fluctuates. Even the planet's rotation has errors. But that 33-second rhythm did not. It was like a signal pulse maintained by intelligence, not by nature. In Canada, the team called it the solar echo. In Japan, they called it the resonance code. The names vary, but they all describe the same phenomenon. A steady stream of energy, and it seems to be remotely controlled. Scientists tried to calculate the source and found that the oscillation did not originate in the Earth's core, nor in the atmosphere. It originated in the space between the sun and the planet, where nothing should have existed long enough to keep such a rhythm. One hypothesis was that perhaps 3I Atlas had left behind an energy resonance, an electromagnetic bubble that existed between the sun and Earth, and when the star shone, it responded in its own rhythm. Like an invisible string, It vibrated whenever light hit it. What worried scientists most was the pattern of the oscillation. When the data was converted into a frequency spectrum, they realized that the amplitude was not a simple curve, but a series of cascading waves with a rhythmic structure, much like the way a signal is encoded to transmit information. Not a natural wave, not noise. It's the structure. In closed-door meetings, some SETI experts began asking, if this is a signal, who is it being sent to? No one answered. Not because they didn't know, but because the question shouldn't have been asked. Because if that 33-second pulse did carry information, then it meant someone was listening to the sun, and the sun was responding. Not long after the 33-second oscillation was confirmed, the Earth began to show strange signs. At first glance, all these changes were small, but when the data were put together, people realized that everything was oscillating in the same rhythm. At the North Pole, auroras appeared thicker than usual, not just in the night sky. They extended to low latitudes, brightening up regions that had never seen auroras before. Low-orbit satellites recorded plasma jets sliding along the planet's atmosphere in a regular cycle, like an inhalation and exhalation of energy, in sync with the sun itself. Atmospheric measuring stations in Finland, Greenland, and Alaska recorded small changes in the ionosphere density. Air pressure was changing slightly. Upper-level wind currents were constantly reversing direction. And all were in phase with the 33-second oscillation. Meteorologists have no explanation, because no natural phenomenon can synchronize with the magnetic field like that. Underground, ultra-sensitive seismic sensors in Japan detect micro-oscillations that repeat at the same frequency. Not strong enough to cause an earthquake, but enough to be felt. A very slight vibration, propagating through the planet's crust. Researchers call it the Earth mirror effect. It's as if the Earth is learning the sun's energy rhythm and reflecting it back in its own way. A physicist at Cambridge said in a closed-door interview, "If this continues, it means the planet is in sync with the star. And if the sun is affected by an object, then the Earth will be affected by the same frequency." Electrical systems in orbit are starting to get noisy. The GPS signal was erratic. The communication data between satellites and ground stations was often interrupted at exactly 33 seconds. Even the atomic clocks at some observatories were slightly off by the same period. The scientific community was silent because it was no longer a theory. It was a measurable reality. One researcher described in his diary, "We have heard about the echoes of the universe before, but this time, the echoes did not come from far away. It came from right under our feet. No one dared to declare, but many began to believe that 3I Atlas might have done the unthinkable, linking the sun's energy field with the Earth's, causing the entire planet to enter a unified oscillation rhythm. And if that were true, it would be more than just a physical phenomenon. It is a form of connection between an interstellar object, our star, and the planet we live on. News of the 33-second oscillation spread like a ripple. There was no official warning, but every lab in the world knew. Scientists, accustomed to the quiet of numbers, began to talk about the phenomenon in hushed tones, as if they were hearing something more vivid than numbers. In Pasadena, the NASA team spent a week collating the data. The oscillation signal appeared on every sensor. From Parker Solar Probe to ESA's solar orbiter, there was no noise. There was no measurement error. All pointed to the same reality. The sun was emitting a regular, structured rhythm, and the Earth was responding. In a closed-door meeting, Professor Loeb, who had asked about 3I Atlas, said something that silenced the room. We have never listened to the Sunday, but perhaps it has been talking to us for a long time. A half-truth, half-metaphor, but everyone understood what he meant. If 3I Atlas really does trigger a resonance reaction in the core of a star, it would change not only astrophysics, but also how we understand life. Some researchers in Tokyo began to try to translate the 33-second cycle. They turned it into sound waves and discovered that the sound was as regular as a heartbeat. Not noise, but a melody. Slow, steady, gentle, as if the sun were breathing. An acoustician wrote in his notes, "It sounded like the sigh of an old creature, just waking up from a billion-year sleep." In Geneva, another group went further. They reproduced the oscillation in an artificial plasma chamber. When the 33-second rhythm was recreated, the plasma ring stabilized itself, without exploding, without decaying, something physics has yet to explain. It was as if the energy liked to be maintained at that rhythm. From this experiment, a new hypothesis emerged. 3I Atlas had adjusted the sun to a new state of energy equilibrium, and the 33-second frequency could be a form of feedback between the two systems. One star, one artificial object. Science journals refused to publish the study. No one wanted to touch a topic that could force astrophysicists to rewrite the definition of stellar energy. But internally, they still silently recorded each cycle, each oscillation, each vibration, like the heartbeat of the universe. An old physicist in Chile said in his final interview, I spent my whole life measuring the Sunday, but only when it started to vibrate did I realize that I was listening to the breathing of the universe itself. From that moment, everything was no longer just data. It was a silence that spoke. It was the feeling of people hearing a star speak for the first time. From the first signals to the 33-second cycle recorded across the planet, everything has gone beyond the realm of science. What humans are witnessing is no longer just a physical reaction, but a form of communication of energy. The sun, the star we thought we understood, suddenly has more depth than ever. No longer a giant mass of plasma, but a system that responds, that adjusts, and can listen. The old question about life was once posed around planets, but now it extends to stars. Because if energy can vibrate with purpose, then the line between physics and consciousness begins to blur. In observatories, people no longer see the sun the same way. They began to observe with a strange reverence, as if standing before a giant being that thought in light. No one dared to conclude, but almost everyone felt the same thing. After 3I Atlas, the sun was no longer the same star. In NASA's data archive, a small chart was still preserved, a wave that oscillated every 33 seconds, running steadily for months, then gradually fading. No one knew when it stopped. Maybe it did, or maybe it just switched to a different frequency that humans had not yet recognized. On an emotional level, the scientists were changed. When you measure the heartbeat of a star, every other measure of the universe suddenly becomes small. We no longer look to the sky to search, but to listen, because sometimes light is also a voice, and silence is an ancient language. After a mysterious 33-second oscillation, everything seemed to be back to normal. The energy profile stabilized. Scientists tentatively believed the sun had just undergone a short-term internal reaction, a small twitch in its great plasma heart. But then, a few days later, an image appeared that silenced the observing world. The 3rd of August 2025, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, SDO, snapped a long, dark streak across the sun's equator. At first, they thought it was a normal cold region, a coronal hole, a hole in the sun's corona where the magnetic field opens, allowing high-energy particles to be launched into space. But this time, something was different. The dark streak ran almost exactly along the ecliptic plane, and more importantly, it wasn't static. It was moving. Over the course of 12 hours of observation, the tear moved westward at a speed of 400 kilometers cs, faster than any surface structure ever recorded. No one had an explanation. Physically, a thin plasma cannot slide across the surface of a star. The spectroscopic data revealed something even stranger. Instead of losing energy, the tear emitted a steady stream of ultraviolet waves every 33 seconds. The same oscillation that had once shaken the planet. The connection was thus undeniable. 3I Atlas had disappeared into the light of the sun, and now the tear appeared at the same longitude as the object had passed. One ESA researcher described it. It's not a typical coronal hole. It's more like a clean cut, made by something precise enough not to destroy the surrounding structure. A chilling description, because on the scale of the sun, a cut means a groove hundreds of thousands of kilometers long, big enough to fit the Earth. Scientists began to compare data. SOHO, Parker Solar Probe, and Solar Orbiter all confirmed. The tear had a magnetic field amplitude reversal at its edge, as if a powerful energy source had opened the plasma from the inside. This couldn't have happened naturally. To reverse the sun's magnetic field, it would require a force equivalent to several billion megatons of TNT, or something capable of interacting directly with the stellar magnetosphere. When news leaked, the scientific community split into two camps. One side argued that this was just a massive activity lesion, a rare variant of a coronal hole. The other looked at the coordinates and saw the exact location of the tear matched the orbit of 3I Atlas on the day it disappeared. Not even 0.03 degrees off. That was no longer a coincidence. It was proof. A trace was left behind, as if the object had carved a path into the star's face and then retreated, leaving the door open. Some physicists began to name it solar rift. From here, every energy pattern in the solar system began to fall out of balance, and what would escape from it would cause Earth to face the strongest wind ever recorded in human history. As soon as the solar tear was confirmed, solar wind monitoring stations around the globe sounded the alarm. The plasma jet that emerged from the area was unlike anything ever recorded. Solar wind speeds typically hover around 400–500 km/s, but this time, it reached sedumset kms. And more importantly, it held steady for 19 hours straight. No slowdown, no swirls, no turbulence, just straight, as if guided by an invisible hand. ESA scientists described the shape of the plasma jet as extremely clean. No energetic dust, no scattered vortices. It moved like a compressed beam of light, keeping its structure stable even as it traveled 150 million km of space, a phenomenon never before observed. NASA hypothesized that the jet might be guided by an artificial magnetic field. That statement, when leaked out of the closed-door meeting, caused a media frenzy. But in internal reports, the data made it clear. The jet's direction of travel matched the 33-second oscillation vector, a pulse of energy that had been recorded on Earth. On the simulation screen, the jet of plasma glowed like a giant ribbon, curved gently around Venus's orbit, and then hurtled toward Earth. Atmospheric analysts couldn't pinpoint the exact timing of the impact, only that when it arrived, the entire planetary magnetic system would be challenged. A scientist at the Space Prediction Center described it. It's not a wind, it's a projectile of energy. As the jet approached, the ionosphere began to vibrate violently. Radar stations in Canada, Alaska, and Japan recorded a complete signal failure every 33 seconds. The old oscillation returned, but this time, it wasn't just a vibration. It was a pulse carrying enough energy to temporarily disable electronic systems. In orbit, 3 weather satellites went into fail-safe mode. Some GPS receivers went offline for a few minutes, and the images from Solar Orbiter faded and then disappeared. Everyone knew something big was coming. When researchers pieced together the data, they found that the plasma wave intensity peaked in the exact region of space where 3I Atlas had passed before disappearing. It was as if the wind was following its old path. No one dared to say it out loud, but the thought was on everyone's minds. If 3I Atlas was the cause, then it might still be there. And now it's using the sun's own energy to move. If you're watching this video and finding it hard to believe, try to imagine a wind that could carry a will. A wind that moves with mechanical precision and responds to Earth's magnetic field as if it knew where we were. What do you think of that? Leave a comment below. Is this just extreme physics or a sign of something controlling the sun itself? And if you want to follow along with me, drop a like. as a way to mark that you were there when the first wind from the solar tear was headed straight for Earth. When the 700 kilometers S solar wind reaches the magnetosphere, everything starts to vibrate. Not the gentle vibrations we see in geomagnetic storms, but a strong, steady, regular pulse, as if the entire planet is beating in unison with its star. On the 7th of August 2025, the entire network of observations from the North Pole to the South Pole recorded an unusual increase in the density of upper-level plasma. The auroras extend thousands of kilometers, reaching regions that have never seen the northern lights. New York, Paris, Kyoto, and even tropical regions like Manila and Da Nang all saw the sky glow like shifting silk, no longer the blue or purple of natural auroras. The light this time shifted from yellow-orange to turquoise, a spectrum never recorded in any physical literature. The ionosphere began to shake violently, changing from 120 kilometers to 95 kilometers in a matter of minutes. The energy waves rushed into the atmosphere, causing a resonance phenomenon, a low, continuous sound, like a rumble from the earth. Some places in Europe recorded the sound for hours, confounding scientists because the source was coming from above, not from below. GPS signals disappeared. Satellite communications were cut off. Civil airliners were forced to change course because navigation signals fluctuated sharply on a regular 33-second cycle. Shortwave radio stations, which had been stable even during high-level storms, were completely jammed. And most strangely, some monitoring stations in South America noticed the interference was emitted in an orderly, repeating pattern, identical to the coded signal. As this data stream was sent to NASA, an analyst whispered, "It's not just a storm, it's sending data." The storm seemed to be destroying, but also creating. The electromagnetic waves were evenly spaced, each 33 seconds, but sometimes they would go to 22, then 11, as if compressing the message layer by layer. Over Canada, infrared cameras recorded the aurora slowly rotating around a fuzzy center in a nearly perfect spiral. The center was not fixed. It was moving along the old orbital path of 3I Atlas, like a subtle hint that this storm was no accident. In the control rooms, people began to realize the most terrifying thing. The wind of energy wasn't just hitting Earth, it was interacting with the planet, as if probing, learning to respond. There was no doubt. This was not a natural eruption. Something, maybe 3I Atlas, or its remnants, was manipulating the sun's energy and using it as a means of communication. Physicists no longer argued about the cause. They began to talk about intentions. No one dared to say it publicly, but in closed-door meetings, the phrase "directed solar behavior" appeared for the first time in official scientific literature. The storm lasted nearly 2 days, then abruptly died down, as if someone had flipped a switch. The Earth escaped the chaos, but the data left behind could not be erased. The 33-second rhythm was still there, steady, calm, and slowly changing, transforming into a completely new rhythm. When the energy storm ended, the scientific world still did not find peace. Millions of gigabytes of data were reanalyzed, and it was in that layer of information, a small detail, seemingly meaningless, that opened a hypothesis that changed the entire understanding of 3I Atlas. The solar wind that the monitoring stations had just recorded did not spread out evenly in a spherical shape as the usual rule. Instead, it concentrated into an energy corridor, narrow, and strangely stable. In the three-dimensional energy maps, the wind appeared as a long pipe that stretched straight from the sun to the region of space near Earth's orbit. It did not bend, it did not scatter, it did not decay with distance. It was like a guide strip, and every plasma wave, every electromagnetic oscillation, flowed along that path. When the Geneva team compared the coordinates, they discovered something incredible. The path matched exactly with 3I Atlas's old orbit. The deviation was less than 0.02 degrees, an error of almost zero over a scale of hundreds of millions of kilometers. That was no longer a coincidence. It could not have been a coincidence of nature, because only artificial intelligence or extremely high-tech magnetic control technology could maintain a stable structure of plasma flow over such a long distance. During an emergency meeting at NASA, a senior engineer used a phrase that had appeared for the first time in official documents: energy corridor. According to him, 3I Atlas may have created a super-stable plasma conduit connecting the Sun to its old position near Earth's orbit. This structure is invisible to the naked eye, but it can transmit energy and information via magnetic waves, like a cosmic cable straddling the star and interstellar space. Several subsequent simulations demonstrated that if an object can generate a locally reversed magnetic field, it can carve a fixed path into the solar plasma, which can last for weeks or months. In other words, 3I Atlas didn't just pass by the Sun. It left a physical imprint inside the star's magnetic structure. Plasma mechanics experts describe the phenomenon in dry language. The combination of a free magnetic field and high ionization energy can create a directional conduction corridor effect. But long-time observers understand its true meaning. If that corridor exists, then the Sun is directly connected to a fixed point in space, and that point is where 3I Atlas stopped before it disappeared. In the images taken by Solar Orbiter, people noticed a faint band of light, stretching tens of millions of kilometers, like a thin stitch of light between two regions of plasma. It is not an image noise. It is not a reflected light. It is a real physical structure, and polarization measurements confirm. The band has a clear direction of energy transfer from the Sun out into space. If that is true, 3I Atlas may have built an energy pipeline between planets, a mechanism that humans have never thought of. And if it can do that once, then the next question is, what did it connect to at the other end? A Caltech physicist said in a closed-door discussion, "We always think of energy as a one-way flow, from stars to space. But if something could channel it back, then the Sun could be more than just a light source. It could be a relay station for information." That opens up a new avenue of research. Could 3I Atlas be using the Sun as a cosmic communication device, a natural amplifier, transmitting data through plasma energy? This is where the notion of an interstellar object begins to falter. Because if 3I Atlas can carve out a mark on the Sun, leaving an energy corridor that extends to Earth, then it is no longer an isolated block of ice floating in space. It is part of a larger system, an organized, purposeful energy network. When the energy corridor hypothesis was announced internally, the entire global scientific community was thrown into a state of alert. Not out of panic, but because all the familiar rules seemed to have been bent. An object had disappeared, but its traces remained in the Sun's own energy. And if that were true, then no one could claim that the universe operated purely on natural mechanics. Within 2 days, ESA, NASA, JAXA, and the Indian Space Center all activated special observation modes. Satellites were redirected. Ground telescopes increased their recording frequency. They did not announce the reason, but everyone understood. The world was watching something invisible that everyone could see. In Geneva, CERN's plasma observation team was asked to simulate the structure of energy corridors in an artificial environment. The results stunned the team. Every time they recreated the 33-second oscillation, the plasma field in the vacuum chamber stabilized itself. No adjustments were needed, no explosions, no degradation. Exactly the same reaction as seen on the Sunday. The self-sustaining energy corridor hypothesis was officially confirmed at the physical level. In the United States, NASA shared the data with the Department of Defense. A separate and undisclosed research group was formed, called the Sol Link Project. The goal: to determine whether the energy flow could carry information or matter. When the data was decoded, analysts discovered an alternating subfrequency in the plasma, not natural noise, but a repeating code in a regular pulse pattern. 3, 6, 9, 12. One of the team's youngest scientists said succinctly in an internal report, "This is math, not physics." In Japan, JAXA measured the magnetic field at high altitudes. They found that the amplitude of the oscillations did not decrease even after the storm had ended. Instead, it stabilized into a long waveform, much like the old radio signals of humanity, except that the frequency did not come from Earth. Some observers called it a long pulse, a sign of sustained communication between two energy sources. European space agencies began to argue, is this a physical phenomenon that is not yet fully understood, or the first evidence of a technological system that does not belong to humans? Some experts have proposed to close the data for fear that the public will infer extraterrestrial elements. But others believe that silence is also an admission. While governments were meeting behind closed doors, independent astronomers were able to download the data from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. When they pieced together the images, something strange appeared. Along the energy corridor, extending from the sun, little dots of light appeared moving in synchrony. Not noise, not reflections. They were flying in formation. The scientific community was deeply divided. If it was plasma, why weren't they swept away by the solar wind? If it was solid matter, how could it survive in the 2 million degree environment? There was no reasonable explanation. There is only one chilling hypothesis. Maybe these are connectors, small modules left behind, maintaining the stability of the energy corridor between the sun and space. An ESA engineer recorded in his diary, "When I looked at the energy map, I no longer saw the Sunday. I saw a grid, and it seemed like someone had turned on a switch." This event marked a turning point in the way humanity saw the universe, because from that moment, every scientist understood. 3I Atlas was not just passing by the Sunday, it was connecting with it. As the data was analyzed to its final lines, something unexpected began to become apparent. The plasma jets leaving the sun, what seemed to be just wind and energy, were returning, not in a physical trajectory, but in an energy signature, a form of reflected wave recorded by satellites in high orbit. It did not have the same characteristics as the natural solar wind, but rather an opposite frequency, described as return light. At NASA's data center, scientists watched a series of weak energy pulses coming at regular intervals of 33 seconds, then 22, then 11, like the message was being compressed. Even stranger, the delay in the signal matched the time it took the plasma jets to travel from Earth back to the Sunday. That meant the planet was reflecting back the energy it received. No one dared to say it, but everyone felt something was going on between the Sun and Earth. Not a physical exchange, but a kind of dialogue. A researcher in Tokyo wrote in the report, "If 3I Atlas really left an energy corridor, then now it is being used in reverse. We are not just being observed, we are being called." In the following days, radiation sensors began to detect a thin light appearing in the solar equator, where there had been a giant tear. The light did not radiate, but concentrated, like an eye closing after observing. No more energy storms, no more violent fluctuations. There was only a silence that was almost conscious. On Earth, the 33-second rhythm stopped abruptly. The oscillation chart was as flat as the surface of still water. All systems were returning to normal, but the feeling, no one dared to admit it. It was as if the entire planet had just passed through a wordless conversation, and now, on the other side, there was only the silence of the one who had spoken. A physicist at Cambridge exclaimed when reviewing the final data, "It didn't disappear. It just finished what it had to do." No one knew what would happen next. The remaining data showed that the Sun's energy still had another rhythm, slower, deeper, as if the star were resting after transmitting its last message. Somewhere in the light, 3I Atlas had not reappeared, but no one thought it had disappeared, because now, even in the breath of the Sun, humans saw its traces. After the storm dissipated, everything seemed to return to a state of equilibrium. The smooth lines returned to flat bands. The solar wind slowed, and the plasma surrounding the Earth stabilized. But beneath the surface of that calm, another process was taking place, so silently, precisely, and irrationally that no one noticed it. Magnetic field stations along the equator began to record the phenomenon of absolute synchronicity. Earth, a planet with a liquid metal core, whose magnetic field naturally oscillates at many chaotic frequencies, was suddenly perfectly synchronized with the energy rhythm from the Sunday. Not approximately, not identical, but exactly identical. When scientists compared data from the DSCOVR satellite at L1 with ground stations in Iceland, Alaska, and Siberia, they saw the same pattern. Each time the Sun emitted a magnetic pulse, the Earth responded immediately, without any delay. According to all physical theories, this should be impossible. The distance between Earth and the Sun is more than 149 million kilometers. Even light takes more than 8 minutes to travel that distance. Yet the planet's magnetic field responded instantly, as if the two systems were connected by an invisible wire. There was no delay, no phase shift, just perfect alignment. Initial simulations showed that the Sun's magnetic field lines were extended more than normal, creating a region where the heliosphere and Earth's magnetosphere overlapped. Essentially, this is a state where two energy fields, one belonging to the star, one to the planet, merge, forming a single system. This has never happened before in the entire history of modern measurements. In the energy charts, a kind of background rhythm appears, oscillating with a familiar 33-second period. But this time, it is not coming from the Sunday. It is coming from Earth. The planet seems to be re-emitting the rhythm it once received. This phenomenon has forced researchers to reconsider their concept. of the energetic relationship between star and planet. It was previously believed that the sun only affects Earth in one direction, through light, heat, and energy winds. But now, it seems that there is a feedback loop, where Earth re-emits energy in the form of magnetic waves, maintaining balance for its own parent star. No physical model could explain it. A tiny planet couldn't possibly influence a star millions of times larger. And yet, the data was clear. The magnetic fields of Earth and the Sun were oscillating like two heartbeats in unison. Analysts call this inverse synchrony, a state in which two separate sources of energy still maintain a perfect rhythm of interaction without the need for physical transmission. On the three-dimensional model, Earth's magnetic field lines stretched ever further, reaching as far as the orbit of Venus. At the north and south poles, the two magnetic poles began to brighten slightly in the ultraviolet, showing an unprecedented increase in ionization. Infrared data showed that most of the reflected energy was concentrated on a single point on the surface, 15 de north, 102 west, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. From there, a small vortex of energy emerged, like a magnetic communication gateway forming. Scientists call this area the magnetic convergence node. Magnetic convergence node. It acts as a middle point where energy from both systems, Earth and Sun, merges and then reflects back. When timed, each oscillation at this node perfectly matches the cycle of plasma pulses emitted from the solar tear, a connection complete, invisible, but as consistent as the blood vessels in a living body. There is no doubt the Sun and Earth are connected by a magnetic cord, not a physical cord, but a complete energetic synchronization. And in between the two ends of that cord, in the space where three Atlas once disappeared, there still exists a faint interference zone, a silence of light, an area that, to this day, no one really knows what's inside. Once the magnetic synchrony was confirmed, an independent team began to examine the details of the phase transition, the moment when the two oscillations reached their maximum amplitude at the same time. In wave mechanics, this rarely happens between two independent energy sources, because even though they share the same frequency, time delays, distances, and transmission mediums always create small phase shifts, often only a few milliseconds. However, when the data between the Sun and Earth were compared, the analysts discovered the unthinkable. The phase shift was absolutely zero. On the interference diagram, the two energy waves, one from the Sun, one from Earth, met perfectly, like two mirrors reflecting themselves. No offset peaks, no statistical errors, a form of phase convergence that even the most precise quantum meters could not detect. Suppose there is a pulse of energy emitted from the Sun, which takes 8 minutes to reach Earth. Physically, the reaction from the planet's magnetosphere should be delayed by at least 8 minutes. However, in reality, the reaction occurs instantaneously, exactly at the moment the Sun starts emitting the pulse. Not later, but simultaneously. That means, between two systems, hundreds of millions of kilometers apart, there exists a nonlinear temporal coupling mechanism, a type of connection that does not travel through space, but through the background energy field of the universe itself. Researchers began to use the concept of entanglement magnetic resonance, quantum entanglement magnetic resonance. Accordingly, the energy fields of the Earth and the Sun have reached a state of entanglement, that is, Any fluctuations on one side will be reflected instantly on the other, regardless of distance or the speed of light. Previously, entanglement had only been observed in photons or electrons at the subatomic scale, but this was the first time a similar phenomenon had occurred at the planetary level. If true, then the Sun and Earth were no longer two separate entities, but two elements in the same unified energy system. When the mathematical model was reconstructed, one noticed a strange relationship. The oscillations of the Sun and Earth were not only in phase, but also interfered, creating an intermediate energy band. This band was not radio waves, not gamma rays, but a form of magnetic field diffraction, with a frequency so low that it could only be detected through changes in the ion structure of the atmosphere. During this time, the Earth's ionization layer was strangely thinned, as if the planet were opening an invisible window to receive energy from its parent star. The timing coincidences don't stop there. When the data were combined with the orbital map of 3I Atlas, another discovery emerged. The period of maximum oscillation between the Sun and Earth matched exactly the time the object was at the intersection of the ecliptic. The distance of 1.62 astronomical units, the inclination of 13.7 degrees. All of these matched the recorded orbit of 3I Atlas before it disappeared. It was as if, even though it was no longer physically present, it had left a rhythmic oscillation in space, and the two bodies were resonating to that rhythm. Some physicists describe this phenomenon as a frequency fingerprint, a kind of signature frequency left in the energy environment. It doesn't transmit information the way electromagnetic waves do, but it has the ability to coordinate the behavior of large energy fields. This complicates the analysis. If an object can leave such a resonance, it means that 3I Atlas has interacted directly with physical space at a level deeper than matter, a level of background energy, where time and distance no longer have meaning as we understand it. This is the first time in the history of observation that humans have been confronted with the possibility that an interstellar object can synchronize the energies between two celestial bodies. And as the Sun, Earth, 3I Atlas, start to oscillate in the same cycle, our star system seems to be entering a new state of equilibrium, no longer governed solely by gravity, but by a form of intellectual resonance. From this, scientists realize we are not just observing a physical phenomenon, but witnessing the formation of an ordered cosmic connection, a form of natural synchronization that classical physics cannot describe, and the universe, once again, has done something that humans could not predict. After the period of absolute synchrony, the global magnetic field charts began to show a subtle change. It was no longer just a response to the Sun, but the Earth itself was sending out its own signal. The phenomenon was first recorded in the Northern European Magnetometer Network. Stations in Norway, Finland, and Iceland noticed a slight increase in the amplitude of the planet's background oscillation, but what amazed them was the perfect repetition of the frequency. Each oscillation lasted exactly 33 seconds, then rested for 11 seconds, and then repeated. A complete beat, as regular as an artificial clock. When the data were compared across continents, the results were almost absolute, no matter where they were. From South America to Africa, from Antarctica to Asia, everything oscillated in the same phase, the same frequency. The Earth had never behaved like this before. The planet's magnetic field was chaotic, constantly changing due to the activity of the iron-nickel core. But now, It was stable. No random fluctuations, no deviations from the cycle. It was as if a coordinator was controlling the global energy rhythm. Geophysicists initially thought of the propagation effect from the solar wind. However, the wind had weakened, and the distance from the sun to the planet did not allow the energy to travel that fast. The more they analyzed, the more they realized that the origin of this signal came from inside the Earth. Deep geomagnetic stations in Greenland and Siberia recorded the echo, not coming down from the ionosphere, but from the mantle, the intermediate layer between the crust and the core. There, where the liquid metal slowly moves around the hot core, a huge induced current is formed, and it oscillates in time with the frequency of the sunday. This can only happen if the energy from the parent star has reached the planet's core through a magnetic resonance mechanism. Some physicists call this deep magnetic synchronization. The consequences of this phenomenon are beyond all predictions. When the core and magnetosphere oscillate in sync, a stable magnetic network is formed around the entire planet. No more dead zones, no more energy gaps. The Earth becomes a unified resonance, and what's even more frightening is that it starts broadcasting outwards. High-orbiting telecommunications satellites receive a weak signal, but with a very clear waveform, a continuous magnetic pulse, small in amplitude, but so stable that the receiver has to manually reduce the noise so as not to lose it. When switched to the audible frequency range, the sound is like a distant heartbeat, very regular, very cold. Not radio waves, not cosmic noise. It is the trace of a planet glowing with its own magnetism. Scientists simulated the phenomenon and found that if this energy continued to be emitted steadily, the Earth would become a resonant transmitter, capable of sending signals hundreds of millions of kilometers away. In fact, some satellites in L1 orbit have begun to receive extremely weak energy feedback, as if the sun were responding. The exchange is slow, subtle, carrying new data, just synchronized oscillations, like a silent dialogue between two celestial bodies. On the global electromagnetic map, connected energy bands begin to form. From the North Pole, across the equator, to the South Pole, a complete double helix structure appears, looking like two energy strings wrapped around the planet. When modeled by computer, the shape perfectly matches the double helix shape of the solar energy corridor. There is no doubt. Earth is mirroring the magnetic structure of its parent star, not just a reaction, but a perfect imitation. On a physical level, this small planet has become an energetic copy of the sun on a smaller scale. Its oscillations are no longer random, but repetitive, like an echo of the giant star from which it was born. Physicists call this the magnetic reproduction phenomenon, an evolutionary step never recorded in the history of astronomy. Earth, which was only a listener in the cosmic symphony, now begins to respond. It has become part of an energetic conversation, where each oscillation, each wave, carries a message from both ends, the star and the planet. As Earth's global magnetic grid was established, scientists began to notice a new phenomenon taking shape at the poles. The North and South poles, which had always been out of phase throughout the history of magnetism, suddenly began to operate in sync, as if they were being driven by the same central power source. The first aurora images recorded this change. Instead of moving independently, the auroras in the northern and southern hemispheres rotated in the same direction, despite being tens of thousands of kilometers apart. This is contrary to the natural mechanism of the magnetosphere, because electric currents in the planet's core should cause the poles to rotate in opposite directions. When the light was captured by infrared cameras, analysts saw a distinct spiral structure. Two string-like bands of energy coiled around each other, intersecting at the magnetic equator, then opening up in the upper ionosphere like a giant strand of the planet's DNA. This phenomenon is called the double helix field. Not only is it geometrically beautiful, it also has perfect mathematical symmetry. The two energy arms rotate at the same speed, are separated by an angle of 33 degrees, and each complete cycle takes exactly 1.584 seconds, equivalent to 48 times the 33-second oscillation between Earth and the Sunday.